I see these people on Facebook groups all the time. They're like my grandma, everything was better before. Well, people are complaining that SEO is always getting harder and they can't do what other people have done before, etc. And I think these people, well, they're kind of like old people, they're blindsided. They also don't realize what got better. And a lot of things got better in terms of SEO. First of all, if you look back, 15 years ago, building a website was a massive core. It would take weeks to put a proper site together. Now I can do it in 2 to 3 hours using WordPress themes, using Elementor, using all the customizer options by default in WordPress, having a WYSIWYG default editor in WordPress as well. It's really easy to put a site together. Same with finding keywords. There was literally, I complained in another episode about how keyword tools got unreliable, but still, it's so much better than it was 4 or 5 years ago. And finding topics to write about has never been this easy. There was no social media before as well. You could not actually promote your content there, etc. But overall, a lot of things got easier. A lot of barriers got lowered. And what that did is that instead of spending a lot of time doing these other things, building your website, creating a logo, etc., you are spending time doing things that are difficult, like link building, like creating content, like editing videos, doing all these things that cannot yet be automated, but may be automated in 20 or 30 years or whatever, or even less, to be honest. And people will call that hard, but they don't realize that the stuff that takes 5 minutes now used to take weeks before. So I think what that did is it essentially, people skip the first steps of the game. They skip the logo creating, they skip the website creating, and they all meet each other at the part where they're trying to get traffic, because that's the competitive part. And so that makes SEO feel harder. And that's essentially creating more people at that step of the game. But still, I think you will look back at today in 20 years and you'll feel SEO was easy back then, despite the fact that you're feeling it's hard now. It's always going to be changing. People don't want to change that, and they don't adapt, right? You're trying to do the same thing that you used to do 10 years ago, and it just doesn't work as well because things got easier. If you used to be a website designer and now there's page builders, you're like, well, fuck, man. It's I can't sell sites for as much because people can literally do it themselves with Squarespace or Elementor or something like that, and it's really a problem. So is SEO getting harder? I guess some parts of it are, like link building, etc., because everyone's just finding themselves there. But the thing is, if you look at the time spent to get success, I don't think it takes longer these days. It's just you're doing the stuff that actually takes more manual work, and you're skipping all the stuff that used to be easy. Reminds me of MMORPGs when they just get old. They make the beginning of the game really easy, you develop really fast, and then at the end you just end up, you all end up in the high level zones and you all fight for it. What do you think, Mark? So not about MMORPGs, about SEO.
I mean, the first thing I would say is this happens in every single industry. If you're a high street retailer at the moment, you're getting under pressure from Amazon and everything that's going on online. If you're an accountant, there are now a lot of tools which are automating huge parts of it. And every industry, taxis and Uber and soon to be driverless cars, SEO is not yet unique in terms of development. There's always a fast pace of change in any industry, and it's the people that stay ahead of the curve and constantly adapt that are going to survive in the long run. Everyone else will just go out of business, and part of that is just being absolutely fundamentally comfortable with things changing all the time. Your entire business model will not exist in 15 to 20 years. That's almost guaranteed. So you have to be okay with making sure that you do whatever you need to do to adapt to what's happening. That putting your podcast on video so people can see you and you're on YouTube and stuff, which is what we're doing right now. Or whoever knows, whatever else kind of automated AI technology comes in for creating content in the future, getting ahead of things with that. And it's just really a mindset of, do you want to just keep doing the same thing over and over again, which a lot of people feel comfortable with doing, or do you want to be constantly pushing boundaries and trying new things, taking risks, and sometimes them working, sometimes them not, but ultimately using that to kind of stay ahead of the curve. And for me, that's like part of the fun of this industry. What I will also say is that when I first got into this in like 2008, 2009, there were people back then saying the exact same thing, like, oh my God, we can't just stuff our keywords at the bottom of the page now and make them like really small text and white so the user can't see them. Like, we have to like build links now and do all this. But like the landscape just changes, man, and you've got to adapt. I mean, it was worrying in 2010 going into a certain industry because you would have to compete with people who are building 1,000 links with like branded, not branded, like anchor text, like specific anchor text on that money keyword, and
you could not rank out.
Yeah, unless you were playing their game, you couldn't do it. So Google's gotten better in a way. You don't have to deal with all that crap, at least most of the time. But the price of that and the price of all of these tools, the one-click WordPress install, everything you mentioned before about like setting up your site and stuff, the price of that is that you have to like deliver some value somewhere. You can't just put together a bunch of these easy tools and easy services and say, hey, I have the best business in the world. Like, where's your value add? So you need to be constantly adding value somewhere along the chain in order to stand out from the crowd.
So I just went on the Xroomer website just because you were talking about this, and they're actually using the old Authority Hacker cartoon character on all over the sales page.
Are you serious?
Yeah, botmasterlabs.net. Don't go.
Oh God.
But it's amazing. Anyway, all of this to say, it's kind of like inflation, right? Stuff gets more expensive, but at the same time, it's never been that easy to make this much money. So, obviously before 2020 just changed everything. But if you take that off, then people have never made this much money from working, but at the same time, stuff never been this expensive. SEO works the same way. There's a natural inflation as people build more and more links, as people build more and more content. Well, you kind of need to keep up with it, but at the same time, things get easier with technology. So that's basically it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop us a like, subscribe below, click on the bell, drop us a comment. Like, is SEO getting harder? Are we just like too optimistic and it's really getting harder or not? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you tomorrow for another episode. Bye.